Assalamualaikum everyone. Hope you guys are good. I think we can start the session. I can hear you. You're mute. That's the reason.
Okay, walaikum assalam.
Awesome. Yeah. How are you?
I'm good.
Cool.
Okay,
So
so my screen is visible, and
yes,
I
yes,
think
yes.
that
This is
is
right.
we are good to go.
Yes, yes. We are good to go. Yep.
Okay, so let's start today's session. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Thank you for joining today's session. So this is the fifth training session for Salesforce Marketing Cloud. So if you haven't joined the previous sessions, you can watch them on Ramshah's YouTube channel. So in our previous session, we mainly covered the AMPscript, and that is where we will be starting off today's session also. So let's have a short revision of previous session, what we covered. So we have so far understood what Salesforce Marketing Cloud is, what are its core features, and mainly the things that we are going to see in our demo. That is Email Studio, Content Builder, Web Studio, Journey Builder. So Email Studio will be used for sending emails, and Content Builder will be used for designing templates or emails. And then there is Web Studio, which we will be using to build landing pages or web pages. And then there is Journey Builder that is used to design the flow of the email sends, or it can be simply used to send an email. And we have talked about data extensions previously. So just like in Salesforce, we have custom objects. In Marketing Cloud, we have data extensions. That is where we store the data. So in our last session, we mainly covered the AMPscript. So I just want to quickly revise what we have covered in our fourth session. So we covered what AMPscript is, which is basically the scripting language for Marketing Cloud, and it is built by Salesforce. Why do we need AMPscript? Because we want to dynamically populate the content in the email, right? So let's say you are sending an email to 100 users. You do not want the name of first user to appear in all of the emails. You want the content to be personalized, to be customized, so that it targets or engages with each person separately or distinctively. For example, if I want to send an email to all the users, says hi, first name. So the first name should be the name of the person instead of hi there or hi user. Right? We need the content to be personalized. That is why we need AMPscript, and we use AMPscript in email, web pages, as well as SMSs. So Marketing Cloud can also be used to send mobile messages. So the AMPscript can be used as part of a mobile template messages also. So AMPscript has some functions which are somewhat similar to Excel. So for example, uppercase, lowercase. So these are some common functions that you will be seeing in AMPscript whenever you are using Marketing Cloud or writing some code in AMPscript. And then there is the AMPscript syntax, which is important to know. So when you are using or designing email template, you would probably be using the personalization strings. So you connect an email template to a particular data extension that holds the data of the users you are sending the email to, and it will have some fields, right? So first name, last name, email address, and maybe more. So you can use the personalization strings in AMPscript to reference the value inside that data extension for the particular email. So for example, I can use %% first name and %%, right? It will reference the value of the first name from the data extension for the particular email of the and the particular subscriber. That we will see in a demo very soon. And then there is inline AMPscript. Sometimes you would want to execute a function, right? So for example, if you want to call the uppercase or lowercase function, for that you would need inline AMPscript. And that delimiter used to call the inline AMPscript is very similar, %%, but we have to append the equal sign. So equal sign, and then we put the function name. If there are any parameters, we can pass them inside the brackets, and then we close the inline AMPscript with equal sign %%. And the third is block AMPscript code. That is where most of your code logic will reside inside the content block of the email. So you can write multi-line code snippet in AMPscript code block. So that we have seen in our previous session also, but we will be covering this in today's workshop demo also. So this is where we uh, left on our previous session. So we were talking about dynamic emails and web pages. So what are dynamic emails? So email templates that are personalized to engage with audience one-on-one. So you normally personalize or customize your email content so that you can engage with your audience properly. So an example could be for an e-commerce store, so where you can send personalized product recommendations and discount offers based on their previous purchases. So let's say there is a user who has been actively purchasing your products from your e-commerce store. You want to offer them some discount, so you would use Marketing Cloud and use AMPscript to personalize the content and offer him or her some discounts based on their previous history and also the products that they are most interested in. And another example could be upcoming events. So you would want to send an email with upcoming events tailored to the interest of a user, right? This is something that we will be seeing in the demo today. We will have an email template which will be personalized for against users interest. And then similarly, we have dynamic landing pages. So we have talked about landing pages in our previous session also. What are landing pages? Which is basically a standalone web page for a particular goal or particular use case. Normally, it contains a call to action or CTA. So in our today's example, we will have a landing page which will be used to collect the user information. So as you can see in the second example here, so it will be used to collect the user information to register against an event. And in Marketing Cloud, we build landing pages inside the Web Studio. Okay, so it's time for a demo. But before I went to the demo, I just want to cover the SSJS also. So in Market, we have three different programming languages that we can use to personalize the content. AMPscript is one, and the other is server-side JavaScript. So AMPscript have had some limitations because it is specifically for Marketing Cloud. Not many users tend to know the AMPscript syntax or code. That is why the server-side JavaScript was introduced. And also because we have spoken in our previous session that AMPscript has user-defined functions, which means it is not object-oriented programming language, right? So it is a procedural programming language. It has predefined functions that we can use. So there are certain limitations. Unlike in other programming languages like Python or Java or even JavaScript, we can define or determine our own values, our own methods, our own functions, classes, and things like that. But there are some restrictions in AMPscript, and that is particularly there is particularly a reason for that. The reason is to keep the things simple. The main objective of AMPscript is to personalize the content, not to build complex web pages or websites, right? So for that, we have server-side JavaScript, which we normally use to build the landing pages in Marketing Cloud, right? So when we are talking about server-side JavaScript, so it is just normal JavaScript that we have seen or used along with HTML and CSS, but it is executed on the server side instead of the client side. So if you don't know the difference between client side or server side, so when you are visiting a website in a browser, let's say Google Chrome, so what you are seeing, the interface that you see, we call it client side, and the code that you do not see, but there is some certain logic that is executed behind the scenes. For example, if you are a common example can be when you are filling in the form information. So that's the first name, last name. So you submit the form, and that data is saved into the some database of that server. So the code used to save that data in a database is on the server side, not on the client side. But what you see, the HTML or the web form, the input fields or the images or the styling on the page, that is done using the client side programming languages, and the common ones are HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So in Marketing Cloud, you can use the very same JavaScript because it is a very powerful language, but write some functions to be executed on the server side. And in addition to that, there is a particular library called core library, which is specific to Marketing Cloud. So when you are executing JavaScript code in Marketing Cloud, you can use all the native JavaScript functionality in Marketing Cloud, but you would need some extra capabilities also. So for example, you want to create or add a record in metadata extension. For that, you can import the core library of Marketing Cloud inside your JavaScript, and that is how you will be able to use all of the functions that are native to Marketing Cloud. For example, you want to get some data from a data extension. You maybe want to trigger a journey from a landing page, or otherwise validate a user or subscriber information that the user is subscribed to the emails, or whether he has or she has opted out of the email functionality. And there can be many other examples. So server-side JavaScript in Marketing Cloud is mostly used at two places. The first one is the cloud pages that we will see, and the another is Automation Studio, which is another functionality inside Marketing Cloud, which is used to automate some repetitive tasks. Probably we will cover this in another session. Okay, so I'll be sharing my screen now, and let's deep dive into a demo. In the meanwhile, if you have any questions, so uh, moving forward, this is going to be more like a workshop and less like a webinar. So I want this to be very interactive. If you have any questions, feel free to drop down your questions inside the chat of this meeting. I will be looking at the chat regularly and answering your questions. So if we can discuss, we can keep the session more interactive if we can discuss the question and answer directly, right? So the last time, the point where we ended our session was this. We were viewing this email template. So those who haven't joined, who have joined for the very first time, let me show you that when you land in Marketing Cloud, so this is what normally you would see. So this is the screen inside a Salesforce Marketing Cloud instance. So that is how a Marketing Cloud instance looks like. So you can see there's an header, email studio, mobile studio, web studio, content builder, audience builder, and these ideas have been covered in our previous sessions. So if you weren't present in our previous sessions, you can find the videos on YouTube. And then I'm here inside the content builder. So this is where you can design your email templates, right? In our previous session, we designed the feedback survey email. So let me just open this for you. So I'm going to edit content of this email. And this is how the email builder looks like. So on the left side, we have the console where you can write the code of the email. And on the right side, we have the preview of the email. So there are multiple, basically you can, when you are designing an email template, you choose to create the email template from the HTML code, or otherwise there is a drag and drop editor also in Marketing Cloud that we will see in a bit. But in this example, I had chosen to develop the email using pure HTML code, and inside the HTML code you can write your AMPscript code also. So for example, from the line number 1 to line number 11, you can see this is what AMPscript code looks like. So in AMPscript code, we can declare variables using the var keyword. So I have declared some variables here: first name, session, and role. And to declare the variable, you have to append @ before the variable name, right? So that is how you declare the variable, and then you can set the value of a variable using the set keyword, right? So for example, what I'm doing here is I'm setting the value of first name uh, to the personalization string, that is lead first name. So if you are getting confused where this is coming from, this is coming from a data extension. So how have I referenced this value here? If you can see this option, this is called personalization. So if I go here, I can see this. It is referencing this data extension that is named new LA leads email journey, and it has these fields. So I can change the data source, for example, by clicking this, and this has loaded the data extensions. These are the data extensions that I have. So I'm referencing new LA leads email journey, and I click OK. So I can show you the data extensions also and how do they look like. To access the data extension in Marketing Cloud, you will typically go into the audience builder and contact builder, and from there you will access the data extensions tab. Right. So this is a data extension where we have our data. So these are the data extension properties, and these are the fields that we have in this data extension. And this is some data that I have manually added to this data extension just to demonstrate. Right, it has an email, it has opted out of email, true or false, ID and first name. So you can see the name of this field is lead colon email. Why is that? Because it is a filtered data extension. Basically we have filtered this data directly from Salesforce, and that is why it has the name in this pattern. Probably we can talk about this more in our next workshop. But yeah, this is how a data extension looks like. So this is the data that we are referencing in our email. So I am calling the lead first name personalization string, and then this is a function that I have used attribute value. Now attribute value, what it does is it understand that we are referencing the value of this attribute from the data extension that is connected to this email, right? So I have connected the new LA leads email journey data extension to this email template, and then this attribute value now understand that there is a field called lead first name that exists in data extension, and I have to fetch the value of that field. And there is a method that we have used, proper case, which is very common, and most of the time you would be seeing this method inside AMPscript, which basically converts the uppercase or lowercase strings into the proper case. So let's say the first letter of the word is always capital. Rest of the letters in the word are small. And if you did notice one more thing, that here when I declare the variable first name, it is in all capital letters. While when I'm setting the value of this variable, I'm using first name. I'm using camel case here. So AMPscript is not case sensitive. You can write the variable names in any format. It doesn't matter, right? I'm also setting the value to the session variable, and then I'm also using if then else statement. So in AMPscript, what we do is to use if else statements. We simply write if keyword, and then we define the condition. No need of brackets or uh, what we call it, curly bracket or round bracket. Then we say if first name is equals to Asad. So what we want to do is we want to set the role to speaker. Otherwise, we want to set the role to member. Then we close the and then we are closing the if statement with end if keyword. So this is a very simple AMPscript code. And below this, we have the full HTML code. As you can see that we have referenced some CSS inside the style tag, and then we are using some HTML code again. So this is what the inline AMPscript looks like. So we have a function in AMPscript called if, which is basically the inline if statement. So it checks that if the first name is empty, there may be some scenarios where the first name is empty. So if the first name is empty, we want to render there. So let's say in the email we have hi, uh, name of the subscriber. So if the subscriber name does not exist, we simply want to keep it hi there, so it does not look ugly. And then we have some more HTML with inline AMPscript, right? And then we are using a function called v. So v is basically to display the output of a variable. So what we are doing here, we are calling the v function, and inside we have passed the variable as a parameter. So let me just uh, click next button and see how the data is rendered here. So if you are not able to understand the code at the moment, do not worry. Do have a surprise for you at the end of the session, which will actually help you understand more about the AMPscript code and dynamic emails as well as web pages. So what I'm doing here is now I'm previewing the data, and I have referenced the data extension that was connected to this email template. So I go to the data extensions, and I can use a new LA leads journey. Then I can click the record inside the data extension to see how the email would look like if the email is sent, for example, to my personal email. So how the content would appear in my email box. So this is how I will be receiving an email, right? It says hi as sir. So it's referencing the first name directly from the data extension, and then there's a title which was set inside the email, and then it's referencing email address directly from the data extension also, and it also is calculating today's date dynamically. And this is the dynamic text block inside the email template. So for example, if I switch to another subscriber, see it did not match the condition, so now it's saying you are our esteemed session member, right? So this is how a dynamic email looks like. uh, if you have any questions till now, let's discuss here. And now we will be moving forward to a more complicated or sophisticated dynamic email template, which will be used to collect, which will be basically used to display the upcoming events to the community members. So let me know if you have any questions. Okay, so I do not see any questions right now. Let's move forward. So this was the simple email that we use to demonstrate how AMPscript looks like. So I have created a folder here inside the shared data extensions called Trailblazer Community. Okay, let me refresh this. So normally you would go into the content builder and select the folder where you want to create the email template, and you can hit the create button and select email message, right? So this is where you can create a new email template. You would choose the option. I would always recommend to use template as the option because it allows you to use a drag and drop editor of the marketing cloud. So for example, I want to use this email, right? So it has some predefined template. All I will have to do is render, I mean, update the content inside the email template. Let's give it a name and description and next. Okay, so this is what I was talking about previously. So now we are inside the drag and drop editor of the Marketing Cloud, and this is a pre-built email template that you could choose for your email send purposes, right? So I can edit this block directly and reference an email. For example, I would want to add a logo here, right? So for example, I can reference the logo image. You can see how simple it is, no coding required. And then you have some basic blocks that you can reference. You can add a button or an image, or even you can add drag and drop the HTML code here. So I have used a very similar template to build an email template from this. I will just directly go to the email template to save the time. So this is very same template that we have just created, but I have this modified. So I have added a logo here, I have added an header image, I have added some content as how the uh, this is not the personalization string, but it is just to show you that inside the email template you can personalize the content, and this is what we want the content to look like. We want to have a logo, we want to have a header image, and we have added some text. So the first name will be replaced by the name of the subscriber, and then we have some content. And then what we want to do here is add some event information with a button to register for the event, right? So this is very same template as you can see here. So I have just updated the content by clicking the layout. I have edited the text here, right, inside this text editor block. Okay, so one step moving forward. So this is the drag and drop email template without any HTML code. But since we want the content to be dynamic, what we want to do here is list down all the available events that are happening, for example, in next month. So this is October. What we are doing here is sending an email template to our community members, say Karachi Trailblazer community members, and we are informing them of the upcoming events in the month of October or November. So this is how I want the template to look like, and I want to add all of the events that are added to the list or scheduled or planned in the November to appear here, right? So what I have done here is I have replaced this block from here with the HTML code. So this is very same email template. I have just added the logo and the header image, right? And this is the HTML code block now. I simply use the HTML content block from the basic content blocks, drag and drop it to the email template, and then I can add some HTML code, right? So this is how the HTML code of this block looks like. Where did I get this code from? I got this code from this email template. So for example, if I can go to the edit section of this email, this is simply a layout. So I haven't uh, modified anything here. But what I can do, I can go to the code view and I can see the whole HTML and CSS code behind this layout. So what I have done here is I copied the HTML code for this particular block and then I replaced it with the HTML block. Why did I do that? Because I want to uh, add all of the events that are scheduled for the next month uh, in this email. But and how would I do that? That I would do through data extensions. So I have created a data extension here. Okay, so inside the Trailblazer community, you can see that I have a data extension called upcoming events. So I have pre-populated the information of the upcoming events for this month as an example. So for example, we have Marketing Cloud session 6 or 7, and then we probably could have Agent Force deep dive data cloud or Salesforce release readiness, and when this event is scheduled, where it is scheduled, the event categories, the month, and this is we will talk about this a bit later. So this is the page ID that will be used to register for the event, right? So this is how the data looks like. What I want to do is inside this email template, I want to show all of the events that are added in this data extension for the next month or say current month, so that I can inform the community members. So these are the upcoming events that you could register to, right? So to do so, I have updated the HTML code. We can use AMPscript inside the HTML code, and to save time, I have already created the sample email template with some AMPscript code. So this is how it looks. So you can see this is the very same HTML code block, but I have added some template, AMPscript code inside the template. So what we are doing here, let me just explain it very simply. We are referencing the attribute subscriber key of this user, and then we are basically calculating the next month. So for this example, I'm directly hard coding the value to the October, because this session was supposedly planned for the next previous week. So it would have calculated the next month to be October by then, but right now I have hard coded it to October. And then we are using a function called lookup ordered rows. So inside AMPscript, we can use some functions to get the data from data extensions, and we have discussed about this function previously also. But you can go to the AMPscript guide on Salesforce, and you can search for AMPscript function references. So if I can show you how this function works. Okay, so inside answer function, I have this code section lookup ordered rows. So I'm using this function here. Okay, so as you can see, this is how it works. So we want to call the function with these parameters. We want to give the name of the data extension and the number of rows we want to retrieve from the data extension. And then we can add the column that we want to sort the data by. And if there is a condition, we can use this condition, right? So for example, to filter the data. So what we have done here is I'm referencing upcoming events data extension, right? So that is what we just saw. And then I'm using 0 as a number of rows. When we use 0, that means we want all of the rows inside the data extension. And then I'm using date time ASC, so basically sorting the data by date time. And then I'm filtering the data by month. So if I just go back to the data extension, you can see I have a field or column called month here. So I'm filtering the data against the month. So what I want to do is inform the community members of the upcoming events. So how this works is like, so let's say in this demonstration, we have a data extension, which is basically a table which holds some data, right? So what we want to do is filter the data against the month. So we can use a function inside the AMPscript called lookup rows. So lookup rows is a function, and when we want to organize the data or sort the data in ascending or descending form, we would use lookup ordered rows. So what this function does is fetches all the rows from the particular data extension against some condition. So for example, we have this lookup rows, and I want to get the data from this data extension for the month of October. So I would use the lookup rows function and apply the filter. So let's say where the month is October, right? And get me all the rows from that data extension. So that is how the lookup rows function works. And then we will have another function to get the value of the particular field, particular row, sorry. So when we use lookup rows function, it will fetch all of the rows from the data extension and store it in an array, right? So array of objects. So, and then what we want to do is when we are sending the email, we want to reference a particular row of that data extension. So we have 3 rows here, row 1, row 2, and row 3. And what we want to do is we will be using the row function and calling the row by its ID. So the first one would be, sorry, index. The first one, the first row will always be have an index of 1. The second will have an index of 2, and the third will have an index of 3, and so on. So when we are getting the data from this data extension, we will be iterating through the lookup rows that are retrieved from this data extension. And for each row, we will be getting the data using the row function. And then there is another function that we'll be using, which is called field function. So what we want to do here is first we get the data rows from these data extension. Then we want to access the single row inside the lookup rows data that we have. And then we want the value of a particular field to display inside the email. And for that, we will be using the field function. So for example, I can say lookup rows and the very first row, or for example, second row. and I want the date time of the second row, uh, value of the date time of the second row from the static symbol. So I would use something like this, field name date time, and the row ID would be 2. So this will give me the value from this data extension of 5th October 2025. So I can change this to, for example, venue, right? So when I change the field label to venue, so it will give me the data from this particular row and column. So that is how the functions for data extensions work in AMPscript. So this is what we have referenced here, right? So I'm using the row function to get the row against the ID. So for example, it starts from very first row. We have this for loop here. So that is the for loop we have discussed in our previous session. We have for loop, and it starts from 1, and it's how it will end up to the row count of the event. So I'm using a row count function to count the number of records that are fetched using the lookup rows function, right? And then I'm setting the row value to the that is basically an array which stores the data of the particular row. And then we have the function called field. So I want to get the title of the event. I also want to get the date time of the event. So you can see I'm using the field function to get the value of the particular column against the particular row, right? So venue, category, and so on. And then I have some uh, code logic here. We will discuss this in a moment, but we are using a mode function to divide the value of the current iteration by 2. So if the value is, for example, divisible by 2, then we want the direction to be LTR. So direction is basically a property inside the double double uh, tag of the HTML, that we will see in a moment how it works. Concat is another function inside AMPscript which will be used to connect two different strings. And I'm using Cloud Pages URL function here that is basically referencing an event registration page, right? So this is how the HTML code blocks look like. For example, if I just click next to show you how it looks like in practical example. Okay, so I'm referencing a data extension called community members here. So if I go to the shared data extension and Trailblazer community, you can see there's a data extension called community members. So I can use this data extension here. So what it's saying is howdy Asatullah, and it is now printing all of the events from these data extension from the data extension. So first event is happening on October 1st because we sorted the data by date, and the second is evening. So the second event is happening on the October of 19th, and the third is happening on October of 26th. You can see, so it is giving me all of the events that are upcoming in the month of October, right? It isn't filtering the event that has been passed in the month of September, since we only want the events that are scheduled in the month of October. So that is how you can dynamically populate the data inside the email template. So let's take this one step further. So we have seen this upcoming events data extension. Now we can see we have a community members data extension also, and it has this data. So first name, last name, email, and the contact ID. We also have interest. So what we want to do is send an email to each of the community member, but we only want to show them the events that they are particularly interested in, right? For example, for me, I'm only interested in marketing related sessions. So there may be a guy called Jack. He will be usually interested in all of the sessions that are available. There may be a guy called Pat. He want to know more about marketing and Agent Force related events that are happening inside the community. So what we can do, we can build the AMPscript code that will be a little complex, but to show you the power of AMPscript, how it looks like, I have already built an email template here. Let me show you the code and how it's working. So this is the same email template. I have just added an extra piece of code in this HTML block. So basically, it is fetching the interest from this data extension, and then I'm splitting the interest by semicolon. So there may be multiple interest against a user. So what it does is creates a string array and it stores the data in interest. So we were using a for loop to iterate over the upcoming events. The same way we will be iterating over the interests of the users. So, for example, if there is a particular interest of the user of the event, we only want to show those events to that user and skip rest of the events. Right? That is how it works. Because we have an event category associated with the event, as you can see. So for example, if we have the event marketing cloud session 6, it is associated with the category marketing as well as general. So there's agent force, it is associated with agent force and general, and so on. And when we preview this email template, now what you can see is it is only fetching the upcoming session related to the marketing category for me. So for example, if I change the subscriber, so this the scene is interested in agent force. So now he will be able to view the session related to the agent force only. So if I move towards Jack, so Jack has his interest in he has set his interest in general. So you want to know about all of the events that are upcoming. So you can see now the email automatically populates all of the upcoming events in the month of October, right? So this is very powerful use case for AMPscript. And then you can see Pat has defined two interests. He's also interested in marketing as well as agent force sessions. So he will be able to view the upcoming sessions related to the agent force and marketing category in this email, right? So that is how you can dynamically populate data inside the email template. And now we'll be moving forward to the landing pages. Let me know if you have any questions. Okay, so now we have completed the session for dynamic emails. What we are about to start here is the landing pages. So for the landing pages, what you would usually do is go inside the web studio and cloud pages, and you will end up uh, in this section. So I have created an event registration page here. So let's go to this page and see how it looks. Okay, so this is the cloud page editor. So at the left side, we again have the console editor, and right side we have the view, right? So I have added some AMPscript code. So you can use AMPscript code inside the cloud page also, and you can use the server-side JavaScript that we spoke about. So as you can see, I have the script tag uh, like we normally do in the HTML content, but the only difference is we have added an attribute called run8 equals server, because we want this code to be executed on the server side. And I'm also loading the platform library that we discussed, the core platform library for Marketing Cloud. And why do we need this? We need this because we want to use some specific functions that are for Marketing Cloud. For example, to get the data from data extension or to create a new record inside the data extension. And in the JavaScript, when we declare variables, we will have to use the var keyword because there is some limitation. In the usual JavaScript, you don't really need to declare the var keyword. You can simply uh, create variables by defining their name and value. But for Marketing Cloud, we need the var keyword. and I'm using some functions called request.getQuery string parameter. So these are the values that will be that are passed down to this form using the post call. So for example, if there is a form that the user submits, and this data will be populated automatically. So let me show you how the form looks like. So we have this event registration form designed with some JavaScript and HTML. And what you are seeing here is the code for this form. We have some JavaScript to personalize the data, and this is a data extension function for server-side JavaScript, similar to what we have in AMPscript. We can use some functions inside server-side JavaScript because of the core library of the Marketing Cloud. So now it has the power to use the native JavaScript functionality as well as the Marketing Cloud specific functionality. So let me show you how it is working here. So we have the HTML content. So what it does is displaying this form here, the CSS and HTML and the form. And I have added one particular condition here. As you can see, it says if thank you is equals to true, then we want to show the thank you page. So that you have successfully registered for the event. If it is false, we want to show them this form for them to register for the particular event, right? And it contains all the fields, first name, last name. It also references the values using AMPscript. The same can be done using server-side JavaScript to get the values directly from this data extension. So right now I have accessed this form directly. It is not populating any data inside this form, but I have referenced the same form in this email. So when I click this button register, let's see what happens. There you go. So when I click the register button inside the email, now it knows for which event am I registering. So we click the register button against the Agentforce deep dive with Data Cloud event, and this is the first name of the subscriber, last name and email, right? And I can click register now to register. How did this happen? Let's go back to the code for a moment. So inside the AMPscript, I use a function called cloud pages URL. And what it does, we can use this function in the email to reference or to connect basically to a cloud page or landing page from the Marketing Cloud. So we have built this landing page inside the Marketing Cloud. And when we do so, if I just go to the page properties, every landing page in Marketing Cloud has a particular ID that we can use to reference. So for example, this page has an ID of 5995, and this is the public URL for the page. But for us to use this page inside the AMPscript, what we will do is we will call the cloud pages URL function and pass down the cloud page ID. So what I have done is I'm passing down the cloud page ID to this function, and also some parameters. So I'm passing the subscriber key, contact ID, event name, email, and etc. All the details from this email to the form dynamically. So whenever the user clicks the register button, it will automatically have all of these details, right? So how does it happen? Think of it as form submission action. So when you submit the form, when you click the register button, it submits or gets these values and automatically uh, appends to the URL of the form, and then it understands that I have these values. And inside the JavaScript, we are referencing these values inside this page. So this is where request.getQueryString method is useful. Okay, there you go. So you can see I'm using request.getQueryString parameter, contact ID, event name, first name, last name. So these are the parameters that are passed down to this page using this function. So we have connected an email to a particular landing page, and when we clicked the register button, it got all of the details pre-populated, and we can change the details if we want. And then I can click the register now button. So let's click the register now button, and tada, we have registered for the session. What happened now behind the scenes is we have another data extension called community event registrations. So through the server-side JavaScript, I executed a function which added a record in this data extension. So now that now I know that Pat has registered. Now I know that Pat has registered uh, for Agent Force Deep Dive with Data Cloud event. So this email will be sent to all of the community members one by one, and it will be personalized for each user. And when anybody registers for a particular session, it will create a new record in this data extension. So that is how AMPscript is used to dynamically populate the data or content inside the email templates as well as the landing pages. And this is how we use server-side JavaScript, particularly inside the landing pages, to dynamically populate the data or the content. And we have used some functions here from the core library, the data extensions init function. And what we have done here is data extension initialize, and I'm passing the data extensions external key. Think of it as in the API name for the custom object in Salesforce. So in for data extensions, we have the external key. So if I go to this data extension, you can see we have an external key, and I'm passing this external key via a variable. So what is it is doing is calling the functions, a row function called add, and providing the parameters in JSON. So contact ID will add the contact ID, first name, last name, email from the values that we have just received from the email. So this is how you develop a landing page inside the Marketing Cloud. And when the form is submitted, we are dynamically setting the value of thank you variable to true. So when the thank you variable, the value of the thank you variable is true, it then understand that I have to show the thank you page. If it is false, then it understand that I have to show the form for the user to register. So this is how we are dynamically populating the data inside the landing page using server-side JavaScript. So you can learn more about these things from the Salesforce Marketing Cloud documentation. But there are some other helpful websites also. For example, AMPscript.guide. I normally use this one. It contains all the functions from the very basics of the AMPscript. For example, it starts from the syntax. So you can always refer to this guide whenever you need to understand how things work. And then similarly, there is another documentation called SSJS docs. So you can use this documentation also to learn particularly about the server-side JavaScript. So that is it for our today's session. Um, Let me know if you have any questions. Okay, looks like there are no questions. But thank you very much, everyone, for joining, and I hope this session has been fruitful. And I also want to thank you to the community admins, Ramsha, Hassan, for dedicating their time to this events voluntarily. Uh, See you in the next session then.